Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Joan Perry, who's here to share with us her new book, The Heroine's Journey, The Art of Becoming the Heroine of Your Own Life. So we all have heard about the hero's journey, but is there one specifically designed for women? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. So Joan Perry is a best-selling author, speaker, investor, and the host of the Heroine's Journey with Joan Perry podcast. She writes for Medium and has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, CNN, Glamour Magazine, NPR's All Things Considered, and The Gayle King Show. Joan's best-selling books include The Heroine's Journey, A Girl Needs Cash, and Living Proof. A trailblazer in finance, she founded the first woman-owned investment banking firm in the U.S., underwriting municipal bonds and trading billions in securities despite skepticism about women taking financial risk. Joan has spoken on major stages, including events with Tony Robbins as well as the Commonwealth Club. With a bold and pioneering 30-year career, Joan continues to empower others as a keynote speaker, life coach, and advocate for women's leadership and financial independence. So welcome to the show, Joan Perry.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about the heroine's journey. What inspired you to write this book?
Oh gosh, Marianne, I could go 5 different ways to answer that question, but maybe I'll just start with the one that catapulted me off my chair in the stadium at the Oprah conference. Do you remember she had that world tour conference where she went all over, and
Oh
she had
yeah.
great speakers like Liz Gilbert and a variety of different people. And it was a magic moment for me. And that magic moment was that I was sitting in the stadium chair and I heard Liz Gilbert, who, of course, is famous for writing Eat, Pray, Love, such a big, wonderful women's book of adventure. And Liz Gilbert said that she had asked Joseph Campbell being the founder and discoverer of the hero's journey, which is the plot line, the underlying story or the underlying structure for the stories that a man goes through to reach his maturity. And she reported that she asked Liz Gilbert, do women have a similar journey to our own maturity, to becoming our best selves? And Joseph Campbell is reported to have said, no, they don't. They stay home and cry.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, did any of the other 6,000 people or 10,000 or whatever it was in this arena hear what I just heard? Because it was so striking to me that we could not be considered to blossom to our best selves, to, you know, go through various different times that helped us to grow, and many were painful because that's just part of the process. Or, were there not heroines before us that showed us the way to things that they'd gone through as they, came to maturity? So it just struck me as so odd, and I just walked away. And from that moment on, really for the next 10 years, I worked on that question to the point that I wrote the Heroine's Journey book.
Well, I'm so glad that you did. I mean, what a great book. One of the things that I find kind of interesting, I know that it's mentioned that many women mistakenly follow the hero's journey instead of the heroine's journey. Why is that?
I really believe that strongly. What I got in all my 10 years of working on this was that Joseph Campbell was right in one way and wrong in another. Joseph Campbell was right that we don't have a hero's journey. He was wrong that we don't have a journey. And blessedly, about 10 minutes before this book was published, I came upon another quote that he was reported to have said, I'm going to read it to you just quickly. I don't know what the counterpart would be in the woman's case. There is a feminine counterpart to the trials and difficulties, but it certainly is in a different mode. I don't know the counterpart, the real counterpart, not the woman pretending to be male, but the normal female archetypally of this experience. I wouldn't know what that would be. Women will have to tell us the way a woman experiences the journey if it is the same journey. So I think there was really strong acknowledgement for what I discovered, which is that we don't. But I think what's happened over the last number of years, certainly as I went into the workforce, I took a look around at when I got my MBA from Vanderbilt and said, so what is the path forward? How do I do this? And as I looked around and I saw, the counterparts of mine that went into different business ventures, I thought, success is the way the guy's doing it. So I did go off in the hero's journey. But what I'm here to say now is that I think we've caused women so much pain because we send them down the path of the hero's journey, and that's not our journey. What I really discovered was that the hero's journey is about going and fighting the lions, tigers, and bears and bringing back the bacon. And I certainly did that as I went to work on Wall Street, and I traded very large blocks of bonds, and I sat in these rooms that were testosterone filled with all these male traders. And I used to do something funny. On Monday mornings, I would bring in and put in a very large vase these magnificent tulips, bright yellow, like they just, in my view, shed sunlight throughout the whole room. But what astounded me is that the men really objected to that. It was messing with their environment. So, it was those kind of experiences that let me know that we just see it differently. And while the man goes on an external journey to go out and fight the lions, tigers, and bears and bring back the bacon, we, on the other hand, go on an internal journey. And that internal journey, as I understand it, is to claim our self-worth and our voice. And I so want to get this message out because it's a huge conversation that we start to define success for a woman in a woman's terms. And one of the places to start is when you say to yourself, do I own my own life? Because we know as women, we're so influenced by the culture and the expectations, whether it's in family or other things, for us to be. And so the heroine's journey really invites women to take their own journey and to ask some really big questions.
Well, I think it makes perfect sense when quotes from John Campbell talking about the hero's journey because he's really looking at it from a male perspective. It'd be
Uh-huh.
very difficult for him to weigh in on a female perspective for the heroine's journey.
Mm-hmm. I think as he matured, let's call it, because the first quote I gave you where he says, women stay home and cry, that was from earlier. This latter quote, he was apparently speaking at Big Sur in California, and he came around to that position. So, he didn't decry us till the end, but I think that at least for me, it opened the pathway to ask, what is a woman's journey? And that's what I've written in the Heroine's Journey book. There are 13 steps, and those 13 steps guide you through a process of becoming your best self, to growing to a woman's maturity, not a man's maturity. It's not go out and fight the lions, tigers, and bears. It's this inner journey where we start to ask ourselves, you know, am I claiming my self-worth? And you can't have a voice until you claim your self-worth. So the 13 steps of the heroine's journey leads you through, um, and with each step, something different. And that's what we teach and talk about. But it starts with create your stability. And that has everything to do with a woman becoming um, supportive and owning her own life, whether it's financial, it's physical, it's the people around you, it's your beliefs and your self worth. From that stage, and by the way, you can't go to the next stage until you get the first stage, because until you get stable as a woman, you don't have the ability to go to the next stage, which is called awaken your authenticity. And in awakening your authenticity, that's when you really can start to speak your truth, because it's coming from who you are and not something you're trying to be because you have to accommodate, because you're not stable, because you need something, like you took the job you didn't want, or you entered into the marriage you didn't want to be into because you needed something, as opposed to being able to choose freely. After the awaken your authenticity stage comes light up your expression. And what that means is that, and you can't light up your expression until you become authentic, because it's your gifts that light up your expression. It's recognizing, not how do I want to engineer my life or how do I want to go do something else. It's truly like what comes from within me that are the gifts that I want to light up. And that's, your gifts are where your ability to be profitable in your life comes from. And then the fourth stage is make your contribution. And that's where we really make our contributions, is from that process that allows us to mature into who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to deliver it. So to me, that's very exciting. I would tell you that I worked on Wall Street trading bonds. I started what was the first female investment banking firm in the country back in some time ago. And I can tell you honestly, that was not my gift. My gift is what I'm doing now. It's and it's funny because somebody told me my gift was going to be with women. And at the time, I was like, "Are you kidding? I don't even know any and I'm not sure I like any," because I was working on Wall Street, you know, in that completely male environment. But it was true, you know. My gift is to be and to deliver, excuse me, I really consider this legacy work that I'm so proud to deliver. You know, I often say I don't think I wrote this book. I think it just came through me, because this is what I am meant to do in this lifetime, and that's to get to that point. It's very exciting.
In your experience, what is the most challenging step for women to overcome on their heroine's journey?
I think, like anything else, it's the start. It's that process of becoming stable, the create your stability part. And obviously, we have limited time here, but let's just run through a couple of them. Let's say you've got a cart, a nice wooden cart. You've got your skills, tools, and talents loaded in the middle of the cart. And what you're trying to do is get that cart down the street so you can take it to market so that you can profit from what you have loaded in the cart. But you look over your shoulder and you're like, oh my gosh, that back wheel, it's wobbling. And then you look at the other side and you're like, oh my gosh, that one just fell off. And if you can picture this, sooner or later, you're like, my ass is dragging on the ground. And you get out and you try to pull it, you try to push it. To get your life moving, you have to get the four wheels on the cart. So, what are those? The four wheels, number one, is beliefs. And that's claiming your self worth and your belief in yourself and developing some mechanisms to edit out anything that doesn't serve you to be able to function at your best. The second one is people. And by the way, this was the one that got me because I didn't have what I would call people discernment. I just let everybody come into my life. My borders were completely open. And there were a number of people who caused serious havoc in my life. And I had to have the skills to adjust that. The next one is financial. And in financial, that means living within your means and making a profit at the end of the year. And the fourth one is physical. And that's doing the things that you need to do to keep your life form energy optimized. And of course, a couple of those are sleep and nutrition and exercise, but some other things that involve the choices that we make. Because the idea is to stay in the middle of the road, to get those wheels firmly on your cart so that you can take your skills and progress down the road. But I do think that's possibly the hardest stage.
Well, and in your book, you talk about true wealth. What
Yes.
does that mean?
Well, initially to me, true wealth means in total living your dreams and desires and living in a way that I think that's where women can really bring it, is that in the male point of view about the journey, it's go fight the lions, tigers, and bears and bring back the bacon. Money is not that important for women, except in certain circumstances. And as you may know, my first book was called A Girl Needs Cash, and it came out of my years and years and years of managing large amounts of money in the markets. And they, what I discovered in writing that book, while a girl does need cash, and I'm not diminishing that in any way, we don't measure our success by cash. We don't measure our success by gathering large amounts of money. That is not true wealth to us. True wealth is much more spread over the things I just described, so that you have the ability to live your life in the peace and harmony that you would like to live it. And
And
it includes love.
what a big piece that is. And thank you for taking the time to share that with us. And I know you talk about the archetypal journey as well. Can you explain what that is?
Well, the archetypal journey is just simply um, an acknowledgement, which by the way, has not occurred before now. Um, and that's what I feel like I have discovered in this work. The archetypal journey is that we all, as women, take the same journey. Now, you might think, wait a minute, my stories are different. Of course, your stories are different, but the steps, the underlying plot line is the same. We just haven't identified prior to now that while there's a story built on this plot line, it's like Star Wars and The Hobbit are built on the same plot line. It's just a different story. And we as women, we do have an archetypal journey, and ours is called the heroine's journey.
I know your book talks about fear and women that
Mhm.
are I wouldn't say embracing, but coming to a point where they're dealing with something fearful. How can they
Mhm.
use that to their benefit?
Well, I think, and that's a big part of what we go over in the book when we talk about the belief section. I think in many, many cases, Marianne, we have to make shifts in our brain. And one of the big shifts is to say that things are working for you. All things are working for you, not against you. And when you can say that, you can soften your own sense of fear because you have trust that there is a story for you and that your story is going somewhere and that the somewhere is to make you a bigger, better, fuller person. And, that shift it takes trust, it takes courage and strength. And all this, by the way, that I'm describing are things that we do describe on the heroine's journey. I laugh is not quite the right word, but When I look back on my own life and I was thinking that first divorce, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. I'll never survive this. I'll fall off the planet, all those things that the brain readily kicks up. And 10 years later, I look back on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I couldn't be where I am today, and I couldn't be pursuing the things I'm doing, and I couldn't have the quality of people in my life. I mean, just so much if I didn't go through some of those hard times that r- you kind of readily say, this could annihilate me. And at the same time, there's a path forward. It's purposeful. It's going to bring you a gift, even though it seems like a big stretch to say, how could this have a gift in it? But it does. And by reshaping some of how you're thinking about things, you can, first of all, soften that fear. But we also say in the book that fear is a message. Fear's a wake-up call. Fear's a pay attention here. Fear's a maybe you need to do something here. Fear's a, are you thinking about this? Not that any of us like to go through those periods because they're fearful, obviously, but it's not an emotion to be attacked or to be dismissed. It's got a message for you. It's got a purpose for you, and we go over that quite a lot in the book.
I think women struggle so much with self-worth, and I was so appreciative because your book really dives into that.
Mhm.
Are there some practical ways that women can strengthen their sense of self-worth that you can share with us?
I love your questions. You have good questions. um, you know, again, it has everything to do with how you see yourself. And one of the questions we asked, and we asked it on our podcast recently, the podcast is The Heroine's Journey with Joan Perry. And one of the things we asked on that whole podcast was, where does your identity come from? Are you listening to yourself about who you are? Are you listening to other people about who you are? Exactly how is your identity constructed in your own self? And I can tell you a simple tool that I have, and that's that some time ago, I decided my brain was like a keyboard. And if I had a thought that didn't serve me, we all know those thoughts. It's I'm too fat. Nobody likes me. I'm not lovable. We all know those. And part of the process is to change that thought to something positive, which we go over extensively in the book. But the other part of it is to just readily delete anything that doesn't serve you. So if I hear myself say to myself, I'm not this or that, or anything that's going to be damaging to my self-worth. Now, I'm not saying that you don't take a good look at something that might be helpful to have you grow and develop and mature, but you know those thoughts that are just sabotage thoughts. You just look on that keyboard, find that delete key, and go delete and move on to the next thing.
I love how simple that is, but so powerful at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah. And not a one of us doesn't have to do that. I don't care how rich or famous or accomplished or whatever. We're all human beings, and all of us are required to monitor and to delete things that aren't going to take us to our highest and best self.
If there's one takeaway that you can leave our listeners and our readers, what would that be?
Um, to read the book. um, I just think this book has been so powerful in my own life that understanding the heroine's journey has literally taken me from disaster and destruction, where I did not think that I could face the next day, to one where I now live a beautiful life, a heroine's life. And when things aren't going so well on a day, because that's truth for all of us, I refer back to that flower cart and I say, which wheel is loose today? Which wheel do I need to tighten up? And I can tell you, frankly, in this week that we are just um, into, I knew there was a person in my life that was not, how can I describe it? Was not, I wasn't being my best self in that situation. And this was a person that needed to go. And because I have a voice now and because I have self worth, I simply said to this person, you know, I wish the best for you. And I just don't think I'm kind of raising my standards here. And I like to be around people who are just a little more heartfelt. And I know you're busy. I know you've got other things on your plate, but I put it on the table and it's allowing me to live a more authentic life because I've claimed my self-worth and I use my voice. And that is the path of the heroine's journey. It's it's not something that your mother, your sister, your nobody is teaching us this stuff. Honestly, this is, in my view, new breakthrough for women to start to ask themselves the big questions about, do I own my own life? What does success look like for me? And all of this is called out for you on the heroine's journey.
Well, Joan, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Oh, so you can go to our podcast, which is The Heroine's Journey with Joan Perry. And there we talk about all kinds of amazing subjects that, frankly, even women with our best friends haven't been talking about. We cover the subjects of financial, self-worth, people. Amazing. So come listen to us on the podcast. We'd love to see you there. Make a comment on Facebook. And again, it's theheroinesbook.com. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Joan. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The Heroine's Journey, The Art of Becoming the Heroine of Your Own Life. Make sure to visit Joan's website at walkthejourney.com to learn more about her work, her podcast, and how to be part of her community. The Heroine's Journey is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.